Welcome to the Spheres of Spirit with Nancy Myers, aka the Lady of the Light. Nancy will discuss the everyday magic and wisdom of spirit which surrounds each of us, waiting to be discovered. She will share some of her remarkable orb photos, proving that our angels, guides, loved ones in spirit, and even pets surround us and guide us in our physical world. During this episode, Nancy will discuss one of the many spheres or aspects of spirit available to us based on her orb photography. She will also share a special channeled message from her guide, Leonini, and do an oracle card reading to help guide you along your personal spiritual adventure. And now, here is your host, orb photographer, author, medium, and speaker, Nancy Myers.
Hi, welcome to the show. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I really do appreciate it. So today I'm going to talk about location. No, this isn't a real estate course. It's all about orbs, and it's about the orbs location in the photos. You know, spirit communicates to us in many ways, but it has to get those messages from their dimension or their world into our dimension or our 3D world. Because most people cannot see the spirit world with their physical eyes. So the spirit world uses or employs things in our world to get our message or to get their message to us. So what do I mean by that as it relates to orbs? Well, there's kind of three ways. First, obviously, the orbs show up in our pictures. So that's the first way. It's a physical 3D image we can hold in our hands. Second, spirit can use colors of orbs or colors of the different energies that appear in the photos also convey a message. Now, I did a podcast a little while ago all about colors, and I go into it in a little more depth. But for today, here's a brief recap. So, emotions, personalities, guides, angels, healing energies can all be represented by a color. For example, if I see a pink orb, it could be conveying love. Pink means heart, love. Pink is the heart chakra, along with green. In fact, green can be signaling that healing energy is being sent our way. Purple can identify a high vibrational being because purple vibrates faster than any other color. And so that can signify a guide or a more evolved soul. And white can be from the angelic realm. Now, as I always say, you can't box in these meanings. There are many multiple layered meanings to the orb itself, to the color and everything. But these are just some of the things that the color can represent. So third is the actual placement or location of the orb in the photograph and what the orb is overlaid on. So it took me a little while to realize that where the orbs appear is also part of the message. Spirit is so clever, and they don't waste any effort or time when communication is occurring. They employ everything. So I'm going to share some of these important orb placement photos with you and tell you the story so that you too can understand how the orbs in color, in placement, and around us can touch our hearts and our souls. By the way, I just want to remind everybody that most of the pictures that I show on my show are my photographs. I've taken them. Unless, of course, my husband has taken a picture of me. Somebody has to take my picture. And he's become a pretty good orb photographer by now. Or if there's a friend that has taken the picture, then I will acknowledge that. But these are all my photographs. So I want to share, if you're ready, my first story. And I apologize for my cough drop. I've been getting over that respiratory thing, and it's either the cough drop or cough. And so I've chosen the cough drop. So please forgive me. So, my first story has to do with my very dear neighbors, Jim and Kathy, and they lived next door to us for over 30 years. They became family. They were extended aunts and uncles to my kids because when we moved in here, my son Robbie was only 4 and my daughter Jacqueline was 6. So literally, they watched our kids grow up and was supported, and we even spent holidays together. We were so lucky to have neighbors like them. Well, when Robbie passed, and I got the news that he passed, they were the first ones here to hold my hand and to help us get through that. But Kathy also supported me as I walked on this journey and with the orb photography and the discovery, and we would get together and have tea and talk about, you want to know what happened today? And she was just such a wonderful person and sister to walk along this journey with. Well, Kathy became, she was dealing with a long time illness, and it finally took her about 3 years ago, and she passed. And her husband had her ashes cremated. Excuse me, had her remains cremated. And so one day I went over to the house to visit Jim, and he said, "Would you like to see the beautiful urn that I got for Kathy's ashes?" And I said, "Of course." So he took me back in the room, and there on her dresser was this gorgeous vase, and I'll show you in a minute. And of course, I'm hearing, "Take the picture, take a picture." And so I said, "Jim, do you mind if I take a picture?" And he said, "No, of course not." So I took a picture, and here's what I got. So if we can bring up that first photograph. So you see that white pinkish orb, and it's next to the urn. Now, the placement is perfect. The color is perfect. My friend Kathy, I always called her my earth angel. I mean, she was just the sweetest, nicest person you could ever meet. And so for her orb, this orb, to be right next to the vase in that pinkish white color, I mean, it brought me to tears. It couldn't have been placed any better in that picture. So I hope you understand that this isn't willy-nilly. Had the orb been in any other place, I wouldn't have connected it to the urn, but it's right next to it, almost touching it, saying, "Nancy, I'm here, and now I'm an orb." So I just love that picture. Thank you, Chris. So I probably have, I don't know, 14,000 pictures that I've taken over the 12 years. But every Christmas, I try to select one or get a special photograph, and I use it as a Christmas card. And I send it out, and I get the wonderful comments. And one year I was in France, and I went to the Notre Dame Cathedral, and I took a picture of the altar, and the photograph was unbelievable with orbs, and so that was my Christmas card. Well, if I don't get one like that through the year, then I have to go outside and say, "Okay, Spirit, I I need a Christmas card." So that's what happened. This Christmas, and I've been doing that, like I said, for about 13 years. But this was in 2012. And I hadn't really gotten that wow picture to use as the Christmas card. So I thought, well, okay, Spirit, I need your help. So I walked out, and we decorated back then. I walked out to my front yard, and I turned and faced the house. I closed my eyes, and I said, "Spirit, if you want me to do this, I need a Christmas card orb. Could you please help me?" And so I took the picture. And if we can bring up that second picture, Chris, because this one just cracks me up. So yeah, that's my house. And you see, and this year was the first year that I had the Santa sleigh and the reindeer. And I took the picture, and there, not next to it, not around it, but in it was the orb. And it said, "Okay, you want a Christmas picture? Here you go. Christmas spirit." It's in Santa's sleigh. I think the orbs have a little bit of a sense of humor too. But again, this just demonstrates that the orbs hear us. They're responsive. They answer us. They're with us. They do what they can to help. So again, there's only one orb in that entire picture. It's not on the ground. It's not up in the corner. It's in Santa's sleigh. Right when I said, I need an orb picture. I think if that orb had been on the house or on the front door, it wouldn't have been as dramatic as it is riding in Santa's sleigh. So that one really kind of made me chuckle, and I thanked him profusely, and everybody just loved that Christmas card. So thank you, Chris. That one was fun. So this next one is and this next story is quite remarkable. And I'm going to take a little bit of time to set this up here. I was writing my book, and if you've seen it or read it, thank you very much. But it came out in 2014, I believe. So I wanted to do a writer's workshop. My son had asked me through a medium to write a book, and I am not an author, and I needed help. So this writer's workshop I came across, it was going to be held on the Isle of Iona, which is in Scotland. It's in the Lower Hebrides. Now, the Isle of Iona, they say, is one of the oldest places on Earth. I read a part of a story where they said the geologists say that some of the rocks are some of the oldest in the world. I don't know how they tell that, but so it's been a part of spiritual worship or spiritual retreats or a very spiritual place for a very long time, all the way back to the Bronze Age. And they know this because they've found artifacts that date it back to the Bronze Age. So it's been used by the Druids. And then in around, I think 1354, after Saint Columba came to the island, he built the first church, or maybe even earlier than that. But the abbey that is now stands was built around 1354. So there you go. That's 700 years right there, right? Well, almost. But the abbey itself, of course, it's that old. It's been refurbished. The first refurbishing, it was in ruins, and the first refurbishing started in 1874, and then there were two or three more. The latest one ended or happened in 1934. But again, the island has been very special for a very long time. When you go to Iona, oh my gosh, it's a little teeny tiny island, and there's two or three hotels on the island. But walking around at night was my favorite part. And I know this has nothing to do with orb location, but I'm just going to tell you because it was so fantastic. You'd walk around the island at night, and if you've ever been in a planetarium and they turn the lights down and they have the dome and they put the images of the stars on the dome, and you're so close you feel like you can just reach up and touch. Well, that's how it is in Iona. You walk around at night and you swear you're in a planetarium. The stars are amazing and they seem so close, just at your fingertips. But anyway, that's just to describe some of the specialness of Iona. Well, we would do the workshop during the day, and then we'd have free time. So one night I found myself walking around, and the abbey was open. So I said, okay, I'm going to go in. And I was the only one in the abbey. And so I walked around and I walked up to the front of the church. And I turned around and I thought, well, I'm going to, of course, take a picture here, right? So I took a picture and I just gasped. And I think you might gasp also when you see this picture. Now, before I show you this picture, for those of you who may just be turning in for the first time, but I have a guide, and I met my guide in 2012 at James Von Praagh workshop. She revealed herself to me, but I didn't start channeling her until December of 2018. But how I met her was she showed me her name, and her name is Leonini. And Leonini, translates to little lion. Now, when I took this picture, I went, oh. So Chris, if we can bring up that next picture. I don't need to outline this because this one, I mean, everybody can see this picture. So there is like a lion faced, and you feel like it's a female, right? And you feel like she might have a crown on, and but what's interesting, and excuse me, again, I talk about the placement of the orbs. This orb picked this particular spot because it placed itself over these rocks or the rock wall in order to form this face. If you take the orb away, you really don't notice that there's a face there. But when the orb appears, there's the face. Now, I told you that my guide was Leonini. And at this point, I had never really seen her. But after I looked at this photo for a little while, I thought, this reminds me of the Egyptian god Sekhmet. And she's the lion-headed goddess of Egypt. Now, there is a connection I found from Iona or Scotland to Egypt. And here's how the story goes. There was, according to some researchers, now, there's all kinds of stories, but this is one of them. So the connection to Egypt is through the daughter of a pharaoh. And this pharaoh had died. And of course, when a pharaoh dies in Egypt, then there's always a power struggle if there's no sons. And so his daughter was feared for her life. And so she fled. And they say that she came to this part of the world, Scotland and Ireland. And her name was Scota, Scota. So some say that even Scotland was named after her. And some say she was on this island, and she was very spiritual and had a women's group there. But I talk more about this in my second book. So if you want to learn more, it's there. But I didn't understand at the time what the orbs were also trying to tell me by their positioning and by utilizing what was behind the orb until I went to Egypt. I had always wanted to go to Egypt. And so I went, maybe 5 years later. And I found myself in a chamber that was dedicated to Sekhmet. I think it was in I don't remember which temple I was in, sorry. But anyway, there was a small chamber, and it's dedicated to Sekhmet. And there's this beautiful black, it looks like onyx statue. It stands probably, 7 feet tall. And so when I went in there, of course, I'm going to take a picture. And if we can bring up that next picture now then, Chris. So the picture on the right is Sekhmet in this sanctuary. And you can see that the orb is placed almost exactly over her face as it was in the abbey in Scotland. So Spirit, in its wisdom, was communicating to me, perhaps, that I have a connection to this lion-headed goddess or to my guide, Leonini, but they wanted to emphasize that. And one day I will share more with you about Leonini and the lion people. But again, it's the placement. It was the placement of the orb in the abbey to form that amazing face. And then the placement of the orb when I'm actually standing in front of the statue of Sekhmet, and the orb appears almost outlining the exact same features as it did in Iona. I just find that remarkable. I hope you do too. So thank you, Chris, for that picture. Um, that a lot of our spiritual connection, a lot of our communication is done through this chakra, the sixth chakra or our third eye. And that's our clairvoyance. And it's where we see things. When I first started doing this work, I was a more of a clairsentient. That means I could feel things. I could feel when spirit was close. I could feel when the energy changed. Um, but I very rarely would see things back then. And I always wanted to. I go, I want to see things. I want to see spirit. I want to have these visions more. And so I had an opportunity. I'm kind of setting this whole thing up. I had an opportunity to go to Bosnia. Never in a million years did I think I would ever be going to Bosnia. But here's why I went. Excuse me. There's a man, he's called Dr. Hold on. I'm so sorry. Dr. Samir Asmanovich. I can't say his name right. But he lives in Bosnia. And he discovered pyramids in Bosnia. And they're bigger and older than the pyramids in Giza. You can Google them, and I write about it in my book. But underneath the pyramids, there is tunnels. And these tunnels are amazing. And some remarkable things happened to me in those tunnels. And I had amazing dreams. I felt, just being there, I felt so expanded. And so one day we were at like a platform, wooded area right next to the pyramid, and we were doing some amazing meditations. And we had been doing it maybe for an hour. It was just quite remarkable. And I'm sitting there, and just towards the end, I hear in my head, "Take a picture of yourself now." Now, this is like the second time Spirit has done this to me, and I'm going, well, I can't take a picture of myself, and everybody's still in meditation. So, no, that's not going to happen. So, I keep hearing that same message: take your picture, take your picture, take your picture. So, the instant that the meditation ended, I opened my eyes, and there was the tour guide sitting right across from me, Sue. And I threw my camera and I said, "Sue, please take my picture right now." She kind of looked startled. She was just coming out of meditation. She said, "Okay." So she took this picture. So if we can bring this one up, Chris. And there it is. The orb is perfectly placed over my third eye. I knew that what I was experiencing, what I was feeling, what I was seeing was truly happening, because in this picture, in this perfectly placed orb picture, it's right over my third eye. And after this trip is when then I really started to see things, to experience things more on the spiritual level instead of just the 3D level. So, and that day, it's harder to capture orbs during the day. I don't normally do that. And this picture was during the day. It wasn't raining. It wasn't, foggy. And my friend, I think my camera has attuned itself to the orbs. And so pretty much anybody that grabs my camera gets orbs. It's really an amazing phenomenon. But if I have their camera and they go, "Well, we'll take pictures with my camera. I'm not getting any orbs." So I'll grab their camera and I'll take pictures. And after 3 or 4, I go, "Well, there you go. There's the orb. Your camera will get them," and then it's like they open up. It's just, I just love how that happens. But anyway, in this particular picture is acknowledgement from spirit that you asked us to open your third eye. You asked us to see, and we have answered you. Thank you, Chris. So I have a couple of more pictures that I want to show you when we come back from this commercial. And if I have time and can keep up my courage, what I'm going to try to do today for the first time, and I've been threatening to do this since I started the show, but I'm going to try to channel Leonini live for you. I am a very shy channel, and if it doesn't work, I will tell you. If I can't get a connection, I will tell you. But I have a message, another message prepared just in case I can't do that. But we'll see if Leonini will cooperate. You know, I've been talking about her all this time, so I said, okay, if I'm going to talk about you, then let's do this message together. So when we come back, we'll finish up the pictures, and then I'll try and do the live channeling for you. So we'll be right back.
OMTimes TV. Imagine becoming a super influencer. Reinvent yourself, invest in your brand, and then manifest your success with a robust spheric approach. OMTimes Media and Broadcasting offers a unique and multifaceted way to become the spiritual and conscious influencer you deserve to be by putting your message across our powerful platform with its proven record of integrity and excellence. Through our produced shows, OMTimes offers the opportunity to become a social media TV personality, a radio show host, an OMTimes magazine columnist, and a syndicated podcaster, all in one shot. By live streaming your show on OMTimes TV and broadcasting it across the extensive OMTimes radio and TV networks, you become more than a host. You become an ambassador and a force for positive change. OMTimes. Open yourself to the possibilities. The story told in Entering the Light Fantastic, Discovering Life After Life Through Orbs, is about Nancy Meyer's spiritual and emotional rising from the devastating ashes of loss caused by the sudden and unexpected passing of her son Robbie. Just like the legend of the reborn phoenix, Nancy's life purpose and focus was transformed. With the help from her son in spirit, Nancy found herself providing proof through orbs that our souls do not die with our bodies. In her second book, Encircled by the Light Fantastic, A Deeper Journey into the Light with Orbs, Nancy continues chronicling her path of gaining spiritual knowledge and expanding acceptance of what is possible, while traveling to many sacred and ancient sites around the world. She shares these experiences with you along with her photographs of remarkable spirit encounters.
When I first saw a turtle, my heart was full. Now I'm anything but lonely.
We have this deep connection, this heart connection.
He just wants to be close to you and part of your life.
Every day with turtle is a perfect day.
When I'm holding her, it makes me feel calmer.
I think everything he does shows how much he loves us.
When we adopt a shelter pet,
We discover
they're a little bit of a lot of things.
But they're all pure love.
love.
And welcome back. So the orbs have personality. They can be funny, they can be serious. Sometimes they can even be a little dramatic. And this next story, I think, might demonstrate that a little bit. I got to go to France, and it was a wonderful trip. It was a magical trip. But there's a basilica there in, I think it's called Saint Baume, France. And this basilica is, again, a very old church, very old basilica. But their claim to fame, if you will, is they have a crypt. And in that crypt, on display in a gold reliquary, is a skull. And they claim it is the skull of Mary Magdalene. Now, I've been in that crypt, and I've taken some amazing pictures there, but I'm not going to show those today. But when you are down in that crypt or even in the church, I hear the words powerful. And, when somebody's describing a spiritual encounter or experience, but this was more sacred. You could just feel the sacredness of it. It was being in that church and in front of that, down in that crypt. So the reason I'm saying that is the whole energy of this compound. You could feel it. It was infused in everything. It was a very, very special place. Well, we were there and we walked around the church and we visited in the crypt, and we each had time to go down and meditate. And then after we were all done, we met up with another tour group, and we met in another part of the church, and it was like on not a basement level, but one half level below ground, and the windows were up high. And so we had a little bit of a fellowship and we talked, and it's the first time we were meeting. Our tour guide and the tour guide of that group knew each other, and so they thought it would be fun to put us together. And it was wonderful. We had time to talk, and then we sang and we shared stories. And then a couple of the girls who were dancers, they decided that they wanted to do some dances for us. So one girl in our group, she was a belly dancer, and she did this wonderful routine. And then there were some other freestyle dancers, and then there was a gal that got up from the other group, and I don't know exactly how to describe her dancing. Kind of ballet, very very agile, very flowing. It was really just beautiful, the way that she moved, and it seemed sacred. It seemed special. And when she was all done, at the very end of her dance, she dropped to her knees and she raised her hands and looked up at the high window, because we were like just below ground. And I thought, oh, that's beautiful. I'm going to take a picture. Oh, and I have goosebumps talking about it. And so I did. I took a picture, and she was really the only dancer that I took a picture of. And I just love this photo. Chris, if we can bring up that, there it is. So you can see the light coming, the window above, and then there was a light on the wall sconce there. And then the orb is right there. But if you look closely, again, it's the placement of the orb. She's got her hands up. If you follow her line of sight, she seems to be looking right at that orb. Now, she can't see this orb with her eyes, but the orb sees her. I zoomed in on that orb, and there is a face in there. And to me, I see Jesus. Now, Jesus has appeared in my photographs before, but why wouldn't he be there if this was a special place, a special church for his beloved Mary Magdalene? So, this one, you just look at this and it almost looks like a painting. It almost looks like, one of the old Renaissance paintings. At least it does to me. But this one was very special. And I just cherish this just because even if I didn't tell you the story, I think if you just were to look at this, it feels holy. So that was my story, and the orb placement and the face. So in this particular photo, the orb's doing three things. It's appearing, it's the placement in her eyes, line of sight, and it has a face. It's like I said, the spirit does not waste anything. They utilize everything and anything around us to get their message across. So thank you very much, Chris, for that. Someone asked, is this live now? Yes. Let's see. It says, okay, I was just reading some of the messages if I could answer something. And are they healing messages too? Yes, the orbs can send us, as I said, the green energy, the healing energy. And thank you, by the way. for typing in your messages and letting me know you're there. I really do appreciate it. So besides color and location, orbs will get their message across by the arrangement or the positions that they appear in the photographs. It's really an amazing thing. I have seen orbs form themselves in patterns, like let's say they're replicating a constellation, or they'll appear as a number. I have seen them form themselves into a letter. So it's another way for them to communicate. But this one is a little bit special that I'm going to show you. It was taken on the winter solstice, December 21st of 2020. Now, this particular solstice was extra special because there was going to be an alignment of the planet Jupiter and the planet Saturn that hadn't happened for a very long time. So I'm going to read this to you because the astrologers put it in a much better way than I can. So bear with me as I read this. It says this year's winter solstice occurs on Monday, December 21st, 2020. What's even more serendipitous about this day is Jupiter and Saturn will meet in the rebellious sign of Aquarius for the Great Conjunction for the first time in over 600 years. More than often referred to as the Age of Aquarius, this celestial occurrence marks the beginning of social and political change. It foreshadows the emerging of a newborn civilization and the rise of visionaries, mystics, and prophets. It's been nearly 400 years since the planets passed this close to each other in the sky, and nearly 800 years since the alignment of Saturn and Jupiter occurred at night. And this alignment happening in 2020 allows nearly everyone around the world to witness this great conjunction. So I'm going to bring up my picture and show you what I captured. And there you go. So the image on the top is our solar system. And the image on the bottom is how the orbs aligned themselves that night on the winter solstice. I always get goosebumps looking at this picture. It's one of the few times that this has happened. And as soon as I captured it, I knew there was something very special about this picture. So why? Why did they do that? Because they were conveying a message. Take notice. We are aligning ourselves so that you can research this, so that you understand the importance of this conjunction, of this alignment. You know, this solstice was unlike any others, and the indigenous people across the planet knew this. And they said that this solstice marks the transition when we enter a new age. That is what the indigenous peoples of the world felt, the Native Americans and all over. They knew that this particular winter solstice was special. And we've heard a lot about the shift in the year 2000, and then it was to 2012. But 2020, what I liked is it says, okay, yeah, maybe we had started into the age of Aquarius, but this particular one marks the rise of the visionaries, mystics, and prophets. Have you noticed the explosion of people who can now reach the other side? The mediums, the channels, the psychics, the children that come in remembering their past lives. I mean, it really has been an explosion and a rise. Even prophets, there are so many people that have YouTube channels or visionaries and say, oh, I had this dream and this happened. It's becoming almost the norm, which I absolutely love. I've talked to mediums and they said, we are literally working ourselves out of a job. And how wonderful it would be if we all could do this work, if we all could reach the spirit dimension, and we can. So I just absolutely love that that picture, and I hope you did too. So I have one more picture here that I want to show you, and this is a picture. Like I said, sometimes somebody has to take a picture of me, and so I asked my husband to do that, and he took this picture. And again, it's the orb placement. I told him, I said, I'm going to reach up, and I'm going to ask the orb to be above me, and so please take a picture. And he did. And you can see the only orb in that picture is just above my outstretched hand. And here is the quote that I attached to that. It said, "The spiritual life is a reaching to our innermost self, to our fellow human, and to our own God." And that's by a name from a man named Henry Noun. But talk about position and expectation. Thank you, Chris. So to recap, it's the placement. It's how the orbs come in, where they come in, what color they are when they come in, where they position themselves, how they arrange themselves, how they utilize the materials behind them. We always ask for a sign from spirit, and sometimes they answer, and I'm sure a lot of you have gotten this. I get tons of feathers from my guardian angel, or ladybugs, or birds, or butterflies, or we find coins, or special heart-shaped rocks, or yes, those are from spirit, but we have to remember we live in a 3D world. If they left us their spiritual things, we couldn't find them, we couldn't see them, right? So they utilize what they have to work with in our world to get their message across. And that's what I learned about spirit and the orbs. Like I said, it took me a while to figure all this out, but I finally went, oh my gosh, they don't miss a trick. I'm going to tell you, I'm a little slow on the uptake, but spirit doesn't miss a trick. So I hope you enjoyed that explanation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a couple of minutes. It takes me just a little bit of time to connect with Leonini. And so if it's silent for a minute or two, please bear with me. Oh, by the way, you can always go back and study these pictures here on OMTime Radio, or you can go to my website, theorbconnection.com, and they're all on there too, and you can zoom in and do whatever you want. So I'm going to try this. I'm not going to force it. I'm going to be honest with you. If I can't connect, I'll come out and I'll tell you, and then I'll read my backup message. But if Leonini lets me know she's here, it's like I feel like she's here when my face feels like I'm walking through cobwebs. So give me just a minute, and I'm going to try this. So here we go. Hold space for me, everybody. And how this usually works is first she'll show me an image. And so if I see an image right away, then I know a message will be coming in. But if I don't see an image, then I'm not going to be connected. And right away I can feel her on my upper lip. So here we go. A fisherman uses a net to capture his fish. He's very good at throwing this net out, reeling in the catch, and sorting through. Even though this net has holes in it, but it's meant to have holes in it. If the fisherman tried to bring a solid net up, it would be too heavy. You have a net of sorts. It's your spiritual net. And when you cast it out to gather information and knowledge, you pull it back, leaving what doesn't serve you. Sometimes when you bring this to yourself, you will have to sort through, but most of the time, your spiritual net will act as a filter. These holes in this net are there for a reason. All does not serve you. All is not from the highest good. So beware and be mindful. When you learn, when you look for new ideas, when you look for new resources, new workshops, new ways of thinking, new experiences, those that fall through the net are not meant for you. We talk about synchronicity, and when you are on the right path, doors open easily. The right object, the right class, the right teacher seems to fall into your lap. And that is what will happen when you cast your spiritual net, signifying to the universe that you are ready to reap the rewards awaiting you. Okay, there you go. I did it. I hope that had special meaning. She showed me a fisherman literally standing on his boat and casting his fishing net out there. So, I did it. Thank you, Leonini. Thank you for the courage to do that. Hopefully this will be the first of many, and I'll keep trying. So I have my cards here. And because we've talked about our sacred journeys today so much, the deck that I have is called Sacred Traveler. So I'm going to pull a card for you. And let me shuffle. And I always do this with the intent that this is from the highest good, for the highest good, and that it helps you on your path. So bear with me. They will tell me when I'm supposed to stop. Thank you, Lori. Thank you, John. I appreciate the that you enjoyed that message. Thank you so much for letting me know that. And okay, one more of these shuffles. And I'll do one of these thingies. And this is the card that wants to be on top. Oh. So it's called Grace and Gratitude. Through gratitude, joy expands. You know, and it's got pink, and the pink right here, which to me is love. And we talked about that. We used a pink orb as an example earlier. But through gratitude, joy expands. You know, I told you when I would talk to my neighbor Kathy, and I was on this journey, especially in the beginning, And all these wonderful things kept happening to me. Every day it seemed like, something new, something new. And I was like a kid in a candy store. It's like, oh my gosh, and it made me so happy. And I was so grateful because before I started on this journey, I never thought I could do this. I never thought I could channel a message from my guide. I never thought I could connect with spirit. I never thought I could read oracle cards. So I was so utterly grateful with each and every little step. And it kept me going. And it's, I literally start each day. Okay, spirit, what are we going to do today? So when you stand in gratitude and joy for the good days and the bad days, because quote unquote bad days are not necessarily bad days, but lessons or time to say, how would you handle this now? Because I see things that come up over and over again, and things that come up now, and I've had maybe similar things, let's say 6-8 years ago. I approach them differently. I react to that differently because I'm not that same person. And hopefully I've grown and I've learned some lessons and learned that what I can control is how I react. So if we react with joy and gratitude, even in those tough moments, that's what we attract. So, and then joy. Joy is that elusive thing that we all want, right? It's like if you have to describe what is happy, what is joy, but it's that inner feeling, that inner peaceful feeling, that childlike wonder is what it is to me. So try and stand in gratitude, and the rest will fall into place. So that's your card for today. So I told you at the end of my last podcast that I was going to have a guest speaker today, guest interviewer, a guest, and she was going to talk about her near-death experience. Well, unfortunately, she got COVID. She's okay, but she was coughing so badly that she said, Nance, I just can't do the interview. So we've moved her to February, hopefully. But next time, which is 2 weeks from today, I have another special guest, and her name is Catherine Ann Clement. Catherine Ann Clement co-authored the book Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, and Grandmother of Jesus. Both of those books were channeled through her and Claire Hartsong, and from Anna, Grandmother of Jesus, and they kind of filled in the blanks of Jesus's life. Fascinating books if you haven't read it. And then she has a new book that comes out. I went to Scotland with Catherine Ann, and I'll share some of the experiences that happened to us while we were there in Scotland. But then I'll also let her talk about her journey and where she is now and what she's trying to do. And her new book is amazing. So we're going to discuss that too. So I hope you can make time for that. So that's all I have for today. Location. I hope you enjoyed those pictures, and I so appreciate you. And by the way, I want to thank all of you who have reached out to me to tell me that this show makes a difference, that you find healing or that you find inspiration or motivation. That's what keeps me going. That's why I continue to do this. And so I thank you so much for letting me know how much this show means to you. Because I see a few messages on the side, but unless you reach out to me, and you can reach me at theorbconnection@gmail.com or my Facebook page, The Orb Connection, and let me know. I have people that send me photos that they want me to take a look at, and I try to look at most of them and get back to you. But for those who have reached out, I can't tell you how much that has touched my heart and how much it means to me. So I thank you so much. I will see you in 2 weeks. Thank you for spending your time with me. Take care. God bless. Bye-bye.